Hi, everyone. I hope you all had a beautiful holiday and a great holiday weekend, and maybe you got some shopping done or put your Christmas tree up and decorating, whatever it is. I hope it was a wonderful experience for you as it was for me. I wanted to talk today about second acts and for me, third acts. So what do I mean by second acts? Well, many of us from a very young age, we decide on what our career is going to be, and we could be in that career for 30 or 40 years. And then maybe something happens and you switch careers. Well, that's happened to me. This is my third time, and I wanted to talk to you about that and also give you something to think about when something takes place in your life that you weren't planning and how you decide that you want to handle that situation. So I'm going to start by telling you my story. I started my career in 1981 as a merchandising assistant right out of college after studying and graduating from the Fashion Institute of Technology. And I graduated with a degree in fashion buying and merchandising. And I pursued that career for the first 14 years of my adult career life. And I absolutely loved what I was doing. Most of the time, it didn't even feel like work. So when you're going somewhere and you're doing a job that doesn't feel like work, you have to know that this is the type of business that aligns with you. I started out as with fashion buying and merchandising, and then my career started to progress, and I moved over to selling women's dresses to major department stores. And then I moved up to selling bridal gowns to specialty bridal shops. And then from there, I moved into the accessory market and I worked for Aris Isotona, which back in the 80s was Isotona slippers and gloves. And so that was one of my best jobs that I absolutely loved doing. And I worked in the slipper division, which was the newer division, and they took off like a bat out of hell, these slippers, and it was an incredible holiday season for us, and it was just so exciting. And like I said, it didn't feel like work and it was great. And then my last job in the industry was that I worked for Totes, which was the umbrella company, the umbrella and galoshes. And it was while I was at that company that I got pregnant unexpectedly. Even though I was married, we weren't trying to have a baby. And actually it was the opposite because I already knew that our marriage was in trouble. But I was pregnant and I wanted to have the baby because I really didn't believe in abortion. I mean, we were married and I was an adult. It wasn't like I was a kid anymore. I was already 32 years old. So I decided that I was going to give my marriage another try. And also, I had to give my career a different direction because I was no longer able to stay in that industry and travel and work long hours and on holiday weekends go into the city to make sure that the department stores were well stocked of our merchandise. I mean, all of a sudden I was in mommy mode and I was no longer in a career mode. And so I had to make a change. And I was working late, especially during market week. It wasn't a 9 to 5 job. We didn't walk out the door when the clock hit 5 o'clock. One day going home, pretty upset because I actually had a fight with my boss. It was very close to Christmas, and he was telling me that he wanted me in the Macy's Herald Square store on Christmas Eve until the store closed, which was like at 9 o'clock at night. Now, I have a brand new baby at home that's not even a year old, and the last place I wanted to be on Christmas Eve was in Macy's in Herald Square, 34th Street, while my family was in my home with my baby celebrating Christmas. And I was in tears. And anyway, I got on this train to go home that night, and a friend of mine was on the train. And she asked why I was upset, and I told her I was crying because they wanted me to work. And she told me to submit my resume to her company and go on an interview. And she said that it was a job for an administrative assistant. And although I was never a secretary to anyone, she told me not to worry because I would get on-the-job training. And the funny thing was that Human Resources didn't want to hire me when I did submit my application because they said that I was overqualified for the job. I waited 6 months and I went on several follow-up interviews before they agreed to hire me for a salary of $37,000 a year. At that point, my salary was more than cut in half. But that was a sacrifice that I was willing to make because I needed to work, but yet I just needed to pay my bills and be able to walk out the door at 5 o'clock and really not have any major responsibility. So that job worked for me. And I worked in that position as an administrative assistant for 12 years before I moved over to Human Resources. And I was interviewed for a job as a compensation analyst that was based on a recommendation from someone who worked in the other department with me, who was also moving over to this group, and he was going to be heading up that group. And we were friends at that point, and he wanted me to come over into that department. I knew nothing about compensation, nor was I ever an analyst. In fact, I happen to be a right brain thinker, meaning that I am very creative and I see things in the big picture. I'm not analytical. I'm not good with numbers. Imagine how hard it is trying to force your brain to think the complete opposite way that I always thought. I never excelled at that job and I disliked it. From the first spreadsheet that was ever placed in front of me, it was mundane. It sucked the life out of me. But I pushed through and I got promoted a few times early on. And my bosses always really liked me because I was very conscientious. I was very professional. I dressed professionally. I really didn't get involved in too much office politics. So I was able to move myself along, but I held myself back because the reason why I went for this job was so that I wouldn't have an enormous amount of responsibility. So a couple of times I was offered a promotion and I actually turned it down because I didn't want that kind of responsibility. My main responsibility was to go home at night and be a mom to my daughter. But I just got caught up, honestly, in the job that I was doing. And like I said, I got promoted a couple of times and I liked the extra money. And at some point during this time, that friend that I thought I that had me move over into his new group, he sort of like turned on me in a way. And he became very passive aggressive with me. And basically what he did was he ignored me. I mean, literally ignored me. If I was with a group of other employees from his department and we walked over to him, he would engage with every single one of them and never make eye contact with me. I went to him and I asked him, was there something that I did or said, or are you not happy with my performance? You need to tell me what it is because I can't change something if I don't know what it is. I laid my cards on the table. I told him, you act differently towards me. We were friends. I thought we were friends. You helped me in a lot of ways. And all of a sudden, You clearly are not my friend any longer. This was his opportunity to come clean, be a man, and tell me what it was that was bothering him about me. But he didn't do that. He blamed his behavior on everybody else and the stress of his job and so on and so forth. And he said, I'm very happy with your performance, with your work, your attitude. You're a team player. I don't have anything at all against you. I don't know what it is that you see, but this is the way I feel. So that was it. The bottom line is this. I didn't do anything to him. He had extreme hang-ups, and I allowed that bad behavior to continue for years. Because after I walked out of that office that day, I'm going to say for the next week, he would say good morning, he'd say hello, he would make eye contact. And then after that week was over, he went back to exactly the way he was. And I said I would never, ever go talk to him about his behavior ever again. The one wish that I always had was that he would be asked to leave the company before they asked me to leave. And I did get that experience, but honestly, it wasn't as fulfilling as I thought it would be. So anyway, I continued at this job because the salary was good and it afforded me the luxury of being able to support myself and my daughter without relying on anyone else to help me. And that was a very important thing for me because I wanted to be independent. I didn't want to ever feel that I needed someone to help me or that I couldn't make it on my own. So it was really, really important for me to have that independence. And that's what locked me into that job. And let me be honest with you, it wasn't all bad because I made some lifelong special friendships with a wonderful group of women who stand by each other no matter what. And even though I'm not working with these women any longer, we're still connected and we still get together and I still feel the same love for them and I know that they have that same love for me. And that's something that is so rare and so beautiful that I would actually do it all over again just to make this group of friendships. So, like I said, my boss went first because the merger did go through and my boss was let go and I remained behind. And, you know, for the first time in the longest time, I really felt hopeful for my job because with new management, maybe I could finally do better and advance in my career. Even though I was already 61 years old, I still had my retirement plan laid out, and that was that I was going to work until I was 65. So that left me 4 years left of work. And I just felt like, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could really excel and do well at this last leg of my career? And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll love it so much with this new regime that I won't even want to retire at 65. Well, it turns out that what I had in mind was not exactly what other people had in mind. So he left before I did, and I was thrilled to actually have asked the universe for that one request because I had a feeling that I may be going as well, but it would have just given me this wonderful satisfaction, I thought, to see him go first. And I managed to survive that, and I felt so hopeful to move forward. And like I said, it didn't feel as good as I thought it was going to feel. I got into this new group and I was reporting to someone new who actually was a friend of mine first, and we got really close on the job and I really liked her. So when I was told that I was going to be reporting to her, I was thrilled beyond belief. It was like a dream come true for me. I'm finally going to be able to prove myself that I could do this job and maybe end my career on a high note. And so to me, it was wonderful. I could not believe it. And then after 27 years and so close to retirement, after I thought I was safe and was going to be able to shine the last couple of years of my career, I was told in a completely shocking way that I was being let go. I thought that the layoffs were all behind us. And like I said, I was already moved to this new area. I had this new manager who was my friend, and I just could not believe it. The most terrible way that it could have been handled, it was handled like that from the beginning. The first 2 days I was completely devastated, but the first 2 weeks I really just had a hard time processing like what happened and what's going on, and then fear set in. I'm 61 years old. Who's going to hire me? What am I going to do? How will I pay my mortgage? How will I pay my bills? And then what I decided to do was change my mindset. And when you change your mindset, you change your circumstances. And I decided to make this event the biggest blessing of my life. And let me tell you why. I was already certified as a health coach for 3 years before I lost my job. I was also certified as a Reiki practitioner 1 year prior to my job loss. I actually first found out about health coaching back in the early 1990s when I received a brochure that was sent to my new home that I couldn't afford to live in at the time. And the brochure came from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. I devoured this brochure from cover to cover and just thought how much I would love to get certified. But who had the money for that? I barely had the money to get by of making my mortgage payments and all my other payments. I put the brochure in a magazine rack that I kept in my bathroom. And from time to time, I would browse through that brochure and look at the curriculum. And every year, the school would send me an updated version of that brochure, and I would keep that one as well. And believe it or not, from the early 1990s, finally, in 2017, I decided I was going to enroll in school and go through this program. It was a big investment of time and money, but I had already put it off for so long, and there were these rumors that were circling around that we were going to merge again, and so I thought it would be the perfect time and opportunity for me to get certified so that in the event that I did lose my job, at least I would have something to fall back on. And of course, there were those layoffs, and even though I thought I was going to be safe, I did end up losing my job. So what I decided to do was get that health coaching business off the ground after wanting to do it for 30 years. Now it was my time, and I was going to make the most of every second of it. I hired a business coach, and I was in a group of like-minded women and some men who were looking to find their purpose and pursue their lifelong dreams. When I tell you that it was the most wonderful experience, and it was only a 3-month program, and yet I know I made lifelong friends from that program. And after 3 months was over and the group had ended, all the women got together and we started creating Facebook groups, like if we were midlife women or midlife women coaches, or we were podcasters, and I got into several of these groups. So I was in coaching groups, I was in podcasting groups, I'm in writing groups, and we meet on Zoom, and we have very, very deep conversations about business and about life. And I realized how different this environment is compared to corporate America. I graduated from that coaching program in March of 2021, and I'm with these women since then. And to today, no one feels like we're in competition. And I'll give you an example. I am in a podcasting group with women, and we're all starting our podcast at the same time. And I'm not jealous that so-and-so already got 200 downloads and I've been doing it for 6 months and only 196 people have come to my podcast to listen to my podcast. There's no jealousy, there's no animosity, there's no climbing the corporate ladder of one person wanting to get ahead before someone else. There's no gossiping, no one's being put down. It's actually just the opposite. We lift each other up and we support each other on our journey of entrepreneurship. And this was such a new and refreshing way to be involved in business. And this is my third act. And I love every second of it. So I have been thinking about doing a podcast for a very long time. And then I decided that podcasting would actually be a wonderful way to advertise myself and my services and to add value to the listeners who are looking to improve their health. Because of this wonderful group of women that I surrounded myself with, I was encouraged to go after my dream as they wanted the same for themselves that I wanted. So we work together and we hold each other accountable and we meet a couple of times each week and we talk about equipment and where we want to host our podcast, and we review different hosts and we have reviewed equipment and we have gotten guest speakers to come into our group who are established podcasters, and they've offered us tips and advice, and nobody's holding back. There's no great secret here. There's like no competition. The world is wide open and there's room for everyone to succeed. And it's so refreshing to have that and be in this different environment. And there's such a big world out there, ladies. I can't even begin to tell you. So I would have never thought that it would be possible for me to have a podcast, fulfill my dream of being a health coach, and also offering Reiki and meditation healing circles. I mean, it's so far off from what I was doing, but it's truly been beyond my wildest imagination to be doing all the things that I always wanted to do for so many years. And I'm really just getting started. And it's also incredible how losing my job has been the biggest blessing in my life besides having my daughter when she was born. This business has been like a baby to me, actually. It really has. I've never been happier doing this work. And the funny thing is that some of the women in my group, they talk about imposter syndrome, and they suffer with that because they're just starting out. I'm not really a podcaster either. I'm not even good with technology. So I've been learning as I go. I don't have the money to invest in a virtual assistant who could help me. I edit my own podcast. I write my own blogs. I edit them. I have my health coaching programs out there. I have to create web pages, landing pages. So if I'm making an offer, how does someone pay me? I have to create a web page to have someone be able to pay me and make payment to me. I've had to learn all of this. And I have to tell you, for the first time in my whole entire life, besides probably when I was in the fashion industry, because that was also my true authentic self, I don't feel like an imposter. I don't suffer with imposter syndrome. I was suffering with imposter syndrome for 27 years when I was pigeonholed into a job that just didn't align with me. And I knew it from day one. The day I walked into that office, The carpet was green, the walls were green. By the end of the day, it was wah, 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 like closing in on me. But I had no choice. What I am doing now is truly who I authentically have always been meant to be doing. But it was buried under all those, I should have this job, I must have this job, this is what's right for me and my family to keep this roof over the head, don't take any chances, don't do this, be cautious. And because I didn't take action myself, because I had all of these narratives in my mind telling me how I was supposed to be and how I was supposed to act and what was the right thing for Susan to do to help support us as a family. And that action that I didn't take was the one thing that I needed the most to do, and that was to leave that corporate job. And because I didn't, someone in my company volunteered their opinion that I should be let go. And go I did, and I never looked back. I am so grateful for the opportunity that that company gave me to pursue my true authentic self and create a business that I could be proud doing. I love helping women to achieve whatever it is they are looking to achieve in regards to their health and wellness. And like I said, my podcast is for women to start thinking about their health and guiding them with suggestions and tips and accountability to pursue a healthy lifestyle. We are all living longer these days. One of the main reasons why we're living longer is because we're living on prescription medications to keep us alive. And I'm not here to bash prescription drugs, but many chronic illnesses that people have that they're taking prescription drugs for can be addressed and eradicated with a change of diet and lifestyle. And that's what I want to offer my clients and my listeners on my podcast. And I know that each episode may not sound super professional, and the editing probably sucks, and I'm probably making mistakes or whatever could be going on. But if you could push that aside for the moment and cut me a little bit of slack, because it's a learning curve for me with technology. But what I have to offer on the podcast is valuable information. So start listening to my podcast. And if you're inclined to go a step further and maybe you want to speak to me privately, you can, and I post it all the time on social media, you could sign up for a free 30-minute health assessment with me. We'll talk on the phone for 30 minutes. We'll talk about what it is that you're hoping to achieve. If I feel that you're a good fit for me and you feel that I'm a good fit for you and you want to move forward, I'll talk about some of the programs that I offer. If you or I feel that we're not a good fit for each other, no hard feelings. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you the best of health. And we move on from there. There's no reason for any kind of hard feelings. If that seems like something that you'd like to do, go on to my social media in Facebook and also on Instagram. You can sign up right there for a 30-minute free health assessment. I just want to thank you again for listening and for spending your time with me here. I really, really appreciate all of you and all the encouragement that you have given me. And please share if you have had an experience with a second, third, or fourth act, and tell me about it, because I am soon to be 63 years old and I'm starting this new career that I absolutely love. I'm so excited about it, and I hope that you decide to listen to my podcast and reach out to me. Have a great day, everyone. Take good care.